Hey, everybody. I hope you're having a great week. My name is Carlos. Thank you for tuning into my channel, Motivated Minds. And if you're watching this video, I want to share with you, I hope you'll stay till the end. I'm going to keep it 8 to 10 minutes, okay? So I won't take much of your time. But what I'm really hoping is as you watch this video that you will be able to connect with it in some way that will give you a little bit more meaning in your life. When I'm talking with you about today, what I'm going to share with you, I'm hoping that this will drive something deeper where maybe it will just bring up some deeper, more meaningful motivation in your life, more purpose that might just help you reframe some things. I may not be making a lot of sense, but you know what? I don't make a lot of sense a lot of times, but hopefully by the end of this will make a little more sense to you. When I was 7 years old, I remember my dad coming home one day early, and he wasn't supposed to. He never came home early. He worked a lot. And he was an alcoholic, and he had an anger issue. And so I never expected my dad to come home early. Why? One day he comes home early, and you know what? I heard his car drive up. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. I was already home from school. And he comes home, he walks up the stairs, and I got a little scared, like, why is Dad home early? And then I heard him say something from outside. He could see my mother in the kitchen, and he said, "Where's my son? Where's Carlos?" And he said it in a way that I'll never forget. He said it in like he was looking forward to seeing me, which again was kind of weird, but I sensed that I was important to my dad in that moment. And so I went out to the door, and I opened the door, and I saw my dad, and he said, "You want to go to the park?" Yeah, for sure. So we lived right behind a park. So he said, "Get your glove. We're going to go to the park." And he told my mom, "Look, I'm taking Carlos. We're going to go to the park." And we walked through our backyard to the park, which was in this little path that we would cut through our backyard. And there we were. No one was at the park. It was like a Tuesday. No one was at the park. We went to the South Diamond, I still remember, and we started throwing the ball. And as we threw the ball, all I can remember is always anticipated that the next ball I throw to him is going to be the last one, and we're going to have to go home. And I didn't want that to happen. Eventually it did. And that was it. We walked back home. And I will tell you that I never threw the ball again with my dad for the rest of my life. He passed away when I was in my mid-20s. Fast forward to when I'm about 41 years old. Big father wound in my life. Big father wound that created a lot of issues in relationships. But not enough to destroy me. I was making something of myself. And I remember one day as I'm doing my internship and working on some stuff, I called one of my really good friends, kind of like a mentor, an older guy who did end up being my mentor. But I remember calling him and saying, "Hey, Jim, would you mind spending a little time with me once a week, a little bit, just kind of putting together some of this program stuff this content that I'm creating for these classes that I'm doing?" And he said, "Sure, Carlos, we can do that. No problem. Let's start meeting every Thursday for about 45 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Jim." Little did I know what was going to happen. I show up the next Thursday. We do our work. It's just what I expected. He was so helpful for me because he was really good at this, at helping me break down this content and create a really awesome program for my clients. Thank you, Jim. 3 weeks later, he says to me, "Carlos, next time you come back, will you bring your glove? Because you used to play ball, right?" And I said, "Yeah, when I was in Little League. I mean, this is like years and years ago." He said, "Yeah, but you still know how to throw, right?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." I said, "Bring your glove next week because we are going to throw some ball." "All right, I can do that. But why?" He's like, "Well, because I got to get ready for softball season. It's coming up, and he wants to loosen up his arm." So I said, "Sure." So I went home, and on my way home, I thought, I don't even have a glove. I got to go get a glove. And so a day before I showed up on a Wednesday, I went down to the sporting goods store and I started to look for a glove. Something happened while I was looking for that glove. I looked on the wall and all I could see was just a bunch of gloves there, just all over the wall, all these different gloves. And all of a sudden, somehow, for some reason, I'm starting to have this emotional reaction. Don't get me wrong. I didn't cry or anything, but I was getting emotional as I was looking up at these gloves on this wall. And I started to take these gloves down and feel them and do this kind of thing with them and get the baseball and throw the baseball in there, smash up the glove a little bit like I did when I was a little kid. And I began to get really emotional. Something started coming up in me. All right, I get the glove. I get a few balls. I go the next day down to see Jim. We go through our content and we do our work. And afterwards, he's like, so you have 15 minutes so we can go throw the ball? Sure. So we went to the back parking lot. Something in me was getting a little excited. I hadn't done this since I was a little kid. The last time I threw a ball was with my dad. So we started throwing that ball together. A little nervous at first because I hadn't done it in so long, but it's like a muscle. You never forget. And so Jim and I threw that ball again for the next 3 months, every Thursday. And then we were done. I was done asking for his help. I had completed the program. I went on my way. I still connected with him because we were pretty close. And I really admired him. And he was as old as my dad. He knew my dad when I was a little kid. I used to hang out at his house when I was a little kid with his sons. So you can understand Jim is much older than I am. And I had this deep kind of respect for him. And I started to realize Jim made me feel important. He was accessible for me. He was attentive to me and responsive to me. And he engaged with me. And guess who didn't do that? And a year later, as I'm walking through some of my own personal work, I end up journaling. And you know what comes up in my journaling? How much I miss playing ball with my dad. And you know what else came up? That I was now doing it with this man named Jim. And this man met these huge needs in my life that I never experienced with my dad, that I missed out on with my dad. And don't get me wrong, there were some things I got from my dad that were good, but there was so much pain there in his life that he couldn't possibly be as present for me as I needed him. And that's when Jim came in at 41 years old in my life. As I began to journal, that's when I began to weep. That's where I began to cry. That's where I began to let out so much of that pain that I had been holding on to for so long. That father wound was being healed by throwing the baseball with Jim, who was accessible for me in the way that my dad wasn't, who was attentive to me and responsive to me in the way that my dad couldn't be, and who engaged with me and made me feel important like my dad never did, unfortunately. Does that touch anything in you? Does that story, can you relate to it in any way? Whatever part of that story? If you can, leave me a comment in the comments section. Let me know what your thoughts are, or how you might be able to relate. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope you don't mind me just sharing a little bit of that with you. The reason why I wanted to share that today was because I've been doing something that I've been talking about on my live streams. I'm doing my live streams every Sunday. You can kind of see those videos. And those live streams I call Psychoeducational Sundays. And I've been talking a lot lately about gratitude and gratitude journaling. And as I was gratitude journaling this morning, Jim came up. And that's why I thought I would share that with you. I'm basically sharing with you the hope that I'm experiencing right now because of the gratitude that I'm connecting with. Thank you for letting me share that.